Richa is a UN Young Leader for Sustainable Development Goals. She is extremely cool also. She's the founder of Labhya Foundation, and she's very interestingly a teacher turned entrepreneur. And I always like to, this is what I keep noticing, okay? 16 is the magic number in the impact space. You know, all young people who are doing something remarkable start at the age of 16. I unfortunately started at 18. So but ever since I met you, I've been so excited to ask you about your journey, but we've been saving it for the panel. So now tell me finally, tell us all about why you do what you do, how you started, what you do, and let us be inspired.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Prachi. And thank you, everyone. I've actually successfully forgotten everything I had to say today because I was so engaged with what everyone had to share. But first and foremost, really grateful to you, to everyone here, to CEEW, to the UN Foundation for having us and having a young person like me here today. As an educator, I'm extremely grateful that we have a space on the table. But I can quickly start with an anecdote and then with some data. So I'm a teacher turned entrepreneur. I started teaching in low-income communities when I was 16 and did that for about a decade. And I think slowly into my journey, you know, learned many, many lessons, have so many incredible stories to tell. But I think the primary lesson I learned from being an educator in those classrooms was that there's a big difference between me teaching and children actually learning. And part of it could have been because I was a terrible teacher. But I think a more serious problem that I saw was that the kind of adversity that my children, my students came from, it was incredibly tough for them to be in the classroom and still be able to learn. And just being regulated enough to be okay to listen and understand and learn and assimilate what was happening in a high engaging classroom even was extremely difficult for so many of my children. And I think I started exploring that over the years, and I think a big turning point for me was, unfortunately in my journey, I lost two of my children, lost two of my students. And one of them was to community violence, another one was to a disease that I had recovered from when I was a child. And I think beyond how it affected me, I saw how the rest of my 48 children in the classroom dealt with it. These are 11, 12-year-old children who are only supposed to care about, you know, their next meal or who they want to play with and, you know, what they're going to do after school. But here they were trying to process the fact that they will never see their best friends ever again. And then I saw how it impacted their parents, the community that I served in. And it seemed like to the outside world, nothing really mattered. You know, like my children's names never came out, nothing of that sort, and mainly because of where they came from. And I think that really made me question my purpose. It made me question why education and what is the true purpose of education. And in that journey, I fortunately met with my co-founders, Vedant and Mallika, who then pushed us to start what is now Labhya. And the whole point of Labhya is to build a movement for children's mental health and well-being. And so essentially what we recognized is that most of the children who go to public schools or government schools in India who come from really low income backgrounds, who come from vulnerable backgrounds, don't have the skills to build or don't have the resilience to be able to cope with where they are in the cycle of poverty and adversity and hence become effective learners. So how can we help children bridge that gap? How can children be regulated enough to then start learning? And so at Labhya, we partner with Indian state governments to help them institutionalize well-being and mental health programs across government schools of the state mandatorily through a daily class that then goes on to impact children's resilience, their ability to build strong relationship skills, their ability to feel motivated to learn. So far, we do this with 2.4 million children across 22,000 government schools in partnership with 3 state governments, with a hope that we will be. Thank you. But we have a long way to go. Our goal is 30 million children by 2030, and I will not stop till we get there. I think that's been my journey, but I think the most important thing as a young entrepreneur I've learned in this journey is, like you were sharing, just take action. Don't wait for anything to happen for you. And the second is to not be afraid to engage with the public systems, but know that your voice really matters, and more than your voice, your action, your intention, and your seriousness is the most important thing in the work that you do.
Amazing.